My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I pressed the numbers on my phone. 911. Behind me, through the thick glass door, I could hear my mother-in-law Evelyn's laughter, that cold, hollow sound that had haunted me for years. But this time it wasn't just mockery. This time my 5-year-old daughter Chloe was missing, and that monster was laughing. The operator's voice crackled through. 911, what's your emergency? My daughter, I choked out, my voice breaking. My daughter is missing. She's 5 years old. Blonde hair, pink jacket. Please, I can't find her anywhere. Mom, stay calm. When did you last see her? 10 minutes ago. Maybe 15. I don't know. She was right there and now she's gone. And my mother-in-law, she did something. I know she did. I know what you're thinking. How does a mother lose her child in someone else's home? How does a grandmother become a monster? If you've ever felt trapped by someone who was supposed to love you, if you've ever been gaslit by family who should protect you, then you understand that sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who are supposed to keep you safe. Before I tell you how we got here, how my daughter ended up missing and my mother-in-law ended up laughing while I called for help, I need you to do something for me. Hit that like button, subscribe so you don't miss what happens next, and comment below if you've ever dealt with toxic family. Your story matters. You're not alone in this. And trust me, you're going to want to hear how this ends. But first, let me take you back 3 months, to when I still believed I could fix this, to when I still thought Evelyn Richardson could change. 3 months earlier, I was still trying to convince myself that things with Evelyn could get better. I know how that sounds. Pathetic, right? But when you're a single mum with no family support except the one person who makes your life hell, you tell yourself stories. You make excuses. You think maybe this time will be different. My divorce from Evelyn's son James had been finalised 6 months before all of this happened. He'd left me for his secretary, a cliché so predictable it would have been funny if it hadn't destroyed my entire life. We'd been married for 7 years together for 9, and I'd spent most of that time trying to win over his mother. Evelyn Richardson was old money. The kind of woman who'd never worked a day in her life, but somehow felt entitled to judge everyone else's work ethic. She lived in a pristine Victorian house in the suburbs of Boston, the kind with manicured hedges and a garden that looked like it belonged in a magazine. From the moment James brought me home to meet his family, Evelyn made it clear I wasn't good enough. I was a kindergarten teacher, which she considered barely above a babysitter. My parents had been working class, my dad a mechanic and my mum a nurse. I didn't go to the right schools. I didn't have the right connections. I didn't know which fork to use at her elaborate dinner parties. But I tried. God, how I tried. I smiled through her barbed comments about my clothes being from department stores instead of boutiques. I nodded along when she corrected my grammar at family gatherings. I accepted her criticism of how I decorated our apartment, how I wore my hair, how I raised Chloe, because James always took her side. Always. When James and I separated, I thought maybe, just maybe, Evelyn would soften. Chloe was her only grandchild after all, but instead things got worse. She blamed me for the divorce, of course. Never mind that her son had been cheating. Never mind that he'd drained our savings account before leaving. In Evelyn's world, if a marriage failed, it was always the woman's fault for not being good enough to keep her man. The Tuesday afternoon when everything changed started ordinarily enough. Evelyn had called me that morning, her voice, saccharine sweet, in that way that always set my teeth on edge. "Sarah, darling," she'd said, drawing out the word like it tasted bitter in her mouth. "I have those documents you needed for Chloe's school registration, the birth certificate copies and her medical records. You really should keep better track of important papers, dear. It's quite irresponsible." Those documents had been in a box at Evelyn's house because when James left, he'd taken most of our important papers with him out of spite. His mother had been holding them hostage for weeks, always having some excuse why I couldn't pick them up. This was her game. She'd dangle something I needed, make me beg for it, make me come to her house where she could hold court and remind me of my place. "Thank you," I'd said, keeping my voice neutral. "What time should I come by?" "Oh, let's say 4 o'clock. That will give you time after your little teaching job, won't it? Though really, Sarah, working full-time when Chloe needs her mother is just another example of your priorities being out of order." My grip on the phone had tightened. "I work full-time because I have bills to pay, Evelyn. James isn't exactly generous with child support." "Well, if you'd been a better wife, perhaps he'd be more inclined to be generous." "Actions have consequences, dear." After we hung up, I sat in my car in the school parking lot and cried. I was so tired. Tired of fighting, tired of defending myself, tired of being treated like I was worthless. But I needed those documents. School started in a week, and without them, Chloe couldn't enroll. That afternoon, I picked up Chloe from her summer program at the community centre. She was chattering about the crafts they'd made her little hands sticky with glue and glitter. She was so innocent, so pure, so untouched by the ugliness of adult conflicts. I wanted to keep her that way forever. "Mama, do we have to go to Grandma's house?" she asked as I buckled her into her car seat. My heart sank. Even Chloe at 5 years old could sense the tension. "Just for a little bit, sweetie. We need to pick up some papers." "I don't like it there," she said quietly. Grandma looks at me funny. "What do you mean, baby?" Like she's mad at me, like I did something bad. I turned around in my seat to look at her. "You didn't do anything bad, Chloe. You're perfect. You're my perfect girl." But even as I said it, a chill ran down my spine. I'd noticed it too. The way Evelyn looked at Chloe sometimes with this cold assessment in her eyes, like she was calculating something. I'd told myself I was being paranoid, that grief and stress were making me see threats that weren't there. Now I wonder if some part of me knew even then that something was very wrong. We arrived at Evelyn's house at 4 o'clock exactly. Being late would have given her another excuse to lecture me. The house loomed over us, all dark wood and stern windows, perfectly maintained gardens creating an illusion of warmth that the interior never matched. Evelyn's sister Tiffany answered the door. She was younger than Evelyn by 10 years, but just as toxic, always with her phone out, always recording, always looking for content for her social media accounts. She had this lifestyle blog that was mostly humble brags about her perfect life and thinly veiled insults toward anyone she deemed beneath her. "Oh, it's you," Tiffany said, not even looking up from her phone. She was filming something, probably a video about her afternoon tea setup or whatever nonsense she was peddling that week. "Evelyn's in the sitting room." I took Chloe's hand and led her inside. The house smelled like furniture polish and old money, a scent I'd never gotten used to, despite years of visits. Everything was pristine, perfectly arranged, cold as a museum. Not a single toy, not a child's drawing, nothing that suggested a child might be welcome here. Evelyn was sitting in her usual chair by the window, backlit by the afternoon sun, so her face was in shadow. It was a power move, one she'd perfected over the years. She didn't stand when we entered. "You're late," she said, though the clock on the mantel showed exactly 4 o'clock. "We're right on time, Evelyn." "I suppose your standards for punctuality are as lax as everything else about you." She finally looked at me, and her gaze was like ice. "You look absolutely dreadful, Sarah. That outfit is something I'd expect to see at a homeless shelter, not on a woman picking up her daughter. No wonder James left you. Tell me, does Chloe have any hope of a decent future, or will you drag her down into your pathetic existence?" "Salt." The words hit like a slap. I'd heard variations of this speech 1,000 times, but it never got easier. Chloe's hand tightened in mine. I could feel her shrinking against my leg, trying to make herself invisible. "The documents," I said, keeping my voice steady through sheer force of will. "Oh yes, those." Evelyn waved her hand dismissively. "I put them in a box in the back garden, near the shed. You'll have to go get them yourself." "I'm not a delivery service." I stared at her. "You want me to go to the back garden? Why would you put them out there?" "Because that's where I put things I don't want cluttering up my house. Now either go get them or leave without them. I really don't care which." This was another game. She wanted me to go outside, wanted to watch me scramble to retrieve documents that should have been waiting for me inside. It was about control, about making me work for every little thing, about reminding me that even the most basic courtesy was something I had to earn from her. "Fine," I said. "Chloe, stay right here, okay? Colour in your book? I'll be right back." "Actually," Evelyn said, her voice sharp, "I think Chloe should come with me to the kitchen. We have those cookies you like, don't we, dear?" "No," I said immediately. Something in my gut was screaming. "She'll stay in the living room where I can see her." "Don't be ridiculous. The view to the back garden is blocked by that trellis work. You won't be able to see her from there anyway." "What, you don't trust me with my own granddaughter?" And there it was. The trap. If I said no, I was being paranoid and unreasonable, keeping Chloe from her grandmother. If I said yes, I was leaving my daughter alone with a woman who I knew deep down wished neither of us existed. "I'll be 5 minutes," I said, pulling out my phone. "I need to take a work call anyway." "Chloe stays in the living room." I saw something flash across Evelyn's face. Anger. Frustration. It was gone too quickly to be sure. "Of course. Whatever you think is best. You're the mother after all, even if you're not very good at it." I went to the back door, my hands trembling. The back garden was large, stretching out toward a small shed at the far end. The glass door was smudged and dirty, obscuring the view back into the house. Another deliberate choice on Evelyn's part. She'd probably had the cleaning service skip this particular door. I found the box right where she said it would be, tucked behind some garden tools by the shed. As I was checking to make sure all the documents were there, my phone actually did ring. It was the school's administrative office with a question about Chloe's enrollment paperwork. I turned away from the house, focusing on the call, explaining what forms I had and what I still needed to obtain. The The call lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. I know because later, when the police asked me to recount every detail, I checked my phone records obsessively, trying to piece together exactly when everything went wrong. When I walked back into the house, Chloe was gone. The colouring book lay open on the floor, crayons scattered like she'd gotten up suddenly. The room was empty, silent. "Chloe," I called out, my voice steady at first. "Chloe, honey, where are you?" No answer. "Chloe," louder now, with an edge of panic. I rushed toward the kitchen, but Evelyn was there, blocking the doorway, just standing there, arms crossed, with this look on her face that I can only describe as satisfied. "She's not in the kitchen, dear." "Where is she? What did you do?" My voice was rising, heart hammering against my ribs. "I didn't do anything. I've been right here. Perhaps you should have been watching her more carefully instead of gallivanting around the garden chatting on your phone. Really, Sarah, this is exactly the kind of negligence I've been talking about." I tried to push past her, but she didn't move. "Get out of my way, Evelyn. Don't you dare use that tone with me in my own house. If you're going to storm around looking for your daughter, at least have the courtesy to ask permission first. You're so rude. Is it any wonder you've failed at every relationship you've ever had?" I shoved her aside, not caring any more about politeness or consequences. I ran through the kitchen, checking the pantry, the breakfast nook, calling Chloe's name over and over. Nothing. I raced upstairs, throwing open bedroom doors, checking closets, bathrooms, anywhere a small child might hide or be hidden. She wasn't anywhere. When I came back downstairs, Tiffany was standing in the hallway, her phone pointed at me, recording. "This is fascinating content," she said. "Unhinged mother loses her child and blames innocent grandmother. My followers are going to eat this up. Put the phone down and help me find my daughter," I screamed at her. "Maybe if you weren't always so dramatic, people would take you seriously," she replied, still filming. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. That's when Evelyn moved faster than I'd ever seen her move. She lunged forward and snatched my phone out of my hands. "What are you doing?" I gasped, reaching for it. But she held it away, and then with deliberate slowness she raised it above her head and slammed it down onto the marble floor. The screen shattered into a spiderweb of cracks, pieces of glass scattering across the tile. "You will not bring the police to this house," she said, her voice deadly calm. "I have a reputation in this community. I am respected. You're a nobody who can't even keep track of her own child. If you call the authorities, I will tell them exactly what you are. An unstable woman with anxiety issues who's always been paranoid and hysterical. Who do you think they'll believe?" I stared at her, and for the first time I saw her clearly. Not as my mother-in-law, not as an obstacle to overcome, not as someone I needed to win over. I saw her as what she truly was, a monster. A woman so poisoned by her own bitterness and need for control that she would hurt a child, her own grandchild, to punish me. "You did something to her," I whispered. "You made her leave. Where is she? What did you tell her?" Evelyn's smile was terrifying in its emptiness. "I simply suggested that she might want to take a little walk. Fresh air is good for children. It's not my fault if she actually listened." The room spun. I couldn't breathe. She'd sent my 5-year-old daughter out into the streets, alone, on purpose. I ran for the front door, Evelyn's laughter following me out into the late afternoon sunshine. The suburban street was quiet, lined with similar grand houses, their perfection hiding whatever rot lay inside. I started running, screaming Chloe's name, looking in front yards, behind cars, my mind spiralling into every horrible scenario. She could be anywhere. Anyone could have picked her up. She could have wandered into traffic. She could be lost, scared, crying for me while I'd been in that house listening to Evelyn's poison. I was running down the sidewalk, tears streaming down my face, when I heard a car door slam behind me. Hey, are you okay?" I spun around. A man was getting out of a truck, parked in a driveway, 2 houses down from Evelyn's. He was in his 40s, wearing jeans and a Boston PD t-shirt, his face creased with concern. "My daughter," I gasped out. 5 years old, blonde hair, pink jacket. "She's missing. She was at my mother-in-law's house and now she's gone." His expression changed immediately from concern to focused intensity. "I'm Mark Chen. I live here. I used to be a detective with Boston PD, retired last year. When did you last see her?" 10, maybe 15 minutes ago. My mother-in-law, she told her to go outside. She made her leave. This was deliberate. Mark was already pulling out his phone. "I'm calling this in. You check this side of the street, I'll check the other side and the back alleys. What's your daughter's name?" "Chloe. Chloe Martinez." While Mark spoke rapidly into his phone, giving a description and the address, I continued searching. I looked in bushes, behind trash cans, anywhere a small child might be. My throat was raw from screaming her name. Every second that passed felt like an eternity. Within minutes I heard sirens. 2 police cars pulled up in front of Evelyn's house. Mark met them on the street, spoke to them briefly, then pointed one officer in my direction while he and the other headed toward the back of the properties. The officer who approached me was young, maybe late 20s, with kind eyes. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Rodriguez. Can you tell me what happened?" I tried to explain, but my words came out in a jumbled rush. The documents going to the garden, the phone call, Chloe disappearing, Evelyn blocking me, the destroyed phone. It sounded insane even to my own ears. "Okay, let's go talk to your mother-in-law," Rodriguez said. "Maybe she saw which direction your daughter went." We walked back to Evelyn's house. She was standing in the doorway now, Tiffany beside her, both of them the picture of concerned relatives. Evelyn had even managed to work up some tears. "Officer, thank goodness you're here," Evelyn said, her voice trembling. "My daughter-in-law is having some kind of episode. She's been under a lot of stress since her divorce, and I'm worried about her mental state." "That's not," I started, but Rodriguez held up a hand. "Ma'am, let me talk to her first." Evelyn launched into a performance that would have won awards. She explained how I'd arrived agitated and confrontational, how I'd gone to the garden and left Chloe completely unsupervised, how when I came back I'd immediately started hysterically accusing everyone. "Chloe has always been a wanderer," Evelyn said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue that Tiffany helpfully provided. "We've told Sarah repeatedly to watch her more carefully, but she's always on her phone, always distracted. The poor child probably just walked out the front door while Sarah was outside arguing with someone on the phone. This isn't the first time something like this has happened." "That's a lie," I shouted. "She's lying. She told Chloe to leave. She destroyed my phone so I couldn't call for help." Tiffany held up her own phone. "I have video of Sarah assaulting my sister and breaking her own phone. It's all right here. She threw it on the ground herself during her tantrum." I stared at the phone screen she was showing Rodriguez. The video had been edited, just a few seconds of footage showing me reaching for something, and then the phone hitting the ground, all context removed. I looked unhinged, desperate, violent. "She's lying," I said again, but my voice came out weak, defeated. Please, you have to believe me. My daughter is out there somewhere, and every second we waste." "We have units searching the area," Rodriguez said, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. He thought I was an unstable mother who'd lost track of her kid through negligence. That's when Mark came around the corner of the house. With him was another officer, and between them, supported by both men, because her legs were shaking too badly to hold her up, was Chloe. I ran to her, dropping to my knees on the sidewalk, pulling her into my arms. She was covered in dirt, her jacket torn, her face streaked with tears, and what looked like blood from a scrape on her cheek. She was shaking uncontrollably. Baby, I'm here. I'm right here. You're safe now." Chloe buried her face in my neck, her small body racked with sobs. I held her as tight as I dared, checking her over for injuries, my own tears flowing freely now. "We found her 3 blocks over," the other officer, whose name tag read Santos, said. "She was sitting under a highway overpass near the on-ramp to Route 95. She's lucky she didn't wander into traffic." 3 blocks. A 5-year-old had walked 3 blocks through suburban streets, across busy intersections, to one of the most dangerous spots in the area. And Evelyn had sent her there. "Chloe," I said softly, pulling back just enough to see her face. "Can you tell the nice officers what happened? Can you tell them what Grandma said to you?" Chloe hiccuped, her blue eyes wide and terrified. She looked at the officers, then at Evelyn standing in the doorway, then back at me. "It's okay," I whispered. "I promise it's okay. Tell them the truth." "Grandma," Chloe's voice was so small, Grandma said I should go outside. She said Mama didn't want me anymore. She said I should stand by the big road and a nice car would stop and take me to a better home. She said Mama was bad and I shouldn't stay with you." The words hit me like a physical blow. Not just suggesting Chloe leave, not just sending her outside, but deliberately, methodically instructing my 5-year-old daughter to go stand by a highway and wait for strangers to pick her up. Officer Santos' expression changed. He looked at Rodriguez, and some unspoken communication passed between them. Rodriguez turned to Evelyn. "Mom, is this true? Did you tell the child to leave the house?" Evelyn's mask slipped for just a second. I saw rage flash across her face before she smoothed it back into confusion. "I may have suggested she play outside. Children need fresh air. But I certainly never told her to go to any highway. The child must be confused. Or perhaps Sarah has been coaching her to say these things. She's been trying to poison Chloe against me for months. She told me to go to where the cars go fast," Chloe said, her voice getting stronger. "She said right there, the big road I could see from the front window. She said to stand close to the edge and wait. She said someone better than Mama would come get me." There was no mistaking it now. That wasn't confusion or a misunderstanding. That was a specific, detailed instruction to a child to put herself in deadly danger. "I need to take some statements," Rodriguez said. His voice had changed to professional distance, replaced by something harder. "Mom," he said to Evelyn, "I'm going to need you to come down to the station with us." "This is ridiculous!" Evelyn snapped, the veneer of the concerned grandmother completely gone now. I will do no such thing. Do you know who I am? Do you know who my lawyers are? My husband was a judge in this county for 30 years. You're making a terrible mistake. A child gave a credible statement that you deliberately endangered her. That's a crime, ma'am. You can come voluntarily or I can arrest you. Your choice. Evelyn's face turned purple with rage. She looked at me with pure hatred. You did this. You turned my own granddaughter against me with your lies and your manipulation. You're a poison, Sarah. You destroy everything you touch. Mark, who'd been standing quietly to the side, spoke up. For the record, officers, I witnessed Ms. Richardson refusing to allow Sarah to search for her daughter when she first came out of the house. I was in my yard and heard the whole thing. She was blocking the door and saying the child probably just wandered off due to Sarah's negligence. She showed no concern for the child's safety and made no effort to help search. Is that true, Mr. Chen Santos asked. Yes, sir. And I'd be happy to give a formal statement. Over the next hour, more police arrived. Paramedics checked Chloe over. She had scrapes and bruises, dehydration, and was in shock, but physically she was okay. The psychological damage I knew would take much longer to heal. I sat in the back of an ambulance with Chloe in my lap, wrapped in a blanket, while officers went in and out of Evelyn's house. Tiffany was taken in for questioning too, her phone confiscated as evidence. I learnt later that she'd deleted the part of her video where Evelyn smashed my phone, but the phone's memory had backed it up to the cloud anyway. Technology had finally worked in my favour for once. Mark brought me a bottle of water and sat down next to the ambulance. How are you holding up? I don't know, I said honestly. I keep thinking about what could have happened if you hadn't been home, if someone had picked her up, if she'd wandered into traffic. But none of that happened. She's safe. You got her back. Because you helped me. I don't even know how to thank you. You don't have to. I'm just glad I was there. He paused, then added quietly, what she did telling a child to go stand by a highway that's not just cruel. That's criminal. The DA is going to come down hard on this. She'll have expensive lawyers. She always does. She'll spin this, somehow make me look like the villain. Maybe. But you have something she doesn't. You have the truth and you have witnesses, and you have your daughter's testimony. That's powerful. A female officer approached us. Ms. Martinez, I'm Detective Lisa Park. I'd like to take your statement if you're feeling up to it. For the next 2 hours I recounted everything. Not just what happened that day, but years of Evelyn's treatment. The verbal abuse, the financial manipulation, the isolation tactics, how she'd poisoned my marriage and turned James against me, how she'd used Chloe as a weapon. I told them about the destroyed phone, about her threatening to ruin my reputation if I called police, about how she'd blocked me from searching for my daughter. Detective Park listened without interrupting, taking notes. When I finished, she said, based on what you've told me and what we've observed, we have probable cause to charge Mrs. Richardson with child endangerment, obstruction of justice and destruction of property. The DA may add additional charges. You should also know that we're referring this case to Child Protective Services. Not, she added quickly, seeing my face, because we think you did anything wrong, but because a relative deliberately put your daughter in danger and CPS needs to be involved to ensure it doesn't happen again. What does that mean for me? It means they'll do an investigation, talk to you, talk to Chloe's teachers and doctors, make sure she's in a safe environment. Given what happened today, I doubt they'll find any issues with your care. If anything, this protects you. It creates an official record that you're the protective parent and that Evelyn Richardson is a danger. After they released us, Mark drove us to a hotel. My car was still at Evelyn's house, but there was no way I was going back there. Mark insisted on paying for the room, wouldn't hear any arguments, and made sure we had everything we needed before he left. He gave me his number and told me to call if I needed anything, any time, day or night. That night, Chloe slept in my arms, occasionally jolting awake with nightmares. Each time I held her and whispered that she was safe, that I loved her, that nothing would ever hurt her again. I meant it. Whatever it took, wherever we had to go, I would keep her safe from Evelyn. The next morning I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I'd spent so long trying to make peace with Evelyn, trying to win her approval, trying to find some way to coexist. But there was no coexisting with someone who would hurt my child to punish me. There was no compromise to be made with evil. While Chloe was still sleeping, I made phone calls. First to a family law attorney that Detective Park had recommended. Then to my landlord explaining that I needed to break my lease for safety reasons. Then to my school principal requesting a leave of absence to deal with a family emergency. The attorney, Ms. Rebecca Walsh, fit me in that afternoon. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense, with a reputation for being absolutely ruthless in family court. When I told her everything, she didn't flinch. Here's what we're going to do, she said. First, we're filing for an emergency protective order. Given yesterday's incident and the police report, a judge will grant it immediately. Then we'll convert it to a permanent restraining order. This will prohibit Evelyn, Tiffany and James from coming within 500 feet of you, or Chloe from contacting you in any way and from being near Chloe's school or any place she regularly goes. Will that really stop them? If they violate it, they'll be arrested immediately. No warnings, no second chances. Most people, even people like Evelyn Richardson, won't risk that. Second, we're going to file a petition to change Chloe's legal name. I looked at her in surprise. Change her name? Right now, her last name is Martinez, your ex-husband's name. What we're going to do is petition to change it to your maiden name, removing any legal connection to that family. It's symbolic, but it's also practical. It makes it harder for them to find you in systems, and it sends a clear message that you're severing all ties. Can we do that? Under these circumstances, absolutely. A judge will look at a case where a grandmother deliberately endangered a child and rule in your favour. She leaned forward. Sarah, I need you to understand something. What happened yesterday wasn't just terrible parenting or a family dispute. It was a crime. Evelyn Richardson told your 5-year-old daughter to go stand by a highway and wait for strangers. That's attempted kidnapping by deception, or at minimum child endangerment with severe, reckless disregard for life. She's going to be prosecuted. Your job now is to protect your daughter and yourself. Over the next few days, everything moved quickly. The restraining order was granted. The DA's office filed formal charges against Evelyn for child endangerment, obstruction of justice, and intimidation of a witness. James called me exactly once, screaming that I was destroying his family, that his mother would never do such a thing, that I'd brainwashed Chloe. I hung up on him and blocked his number. Tiffany's social media accounts, which had been her entire life, were subpoenaed as evidence. The videos she'd recorded showed her laughing while I searched frantically for Chloe, showed Evelyn's smug expression, showed their complete lack of concern for a missing child. When those clips leaked online, her followers turned on her viciously. She lost sponsorships, partnerships, everything she'd built. I felt no sympathy. A week after the incident, I got a call from Detective Park. I wanted to let you know that the DA has added additional charges. They're going after Evelyn for attempted harm to a minor. It carries a potential sentence of up to 5 years. Will she actually go to jail? I can't promise anything. She has good lawyers and she's connected. But the evidence is strong. Your daughter's testimony, the police reports, the witness statements, even her sister's videos, all paint a very clear picture. The DA thinks we have an excellent case. What about visitation? Can she try to claim grandparents' rights? Not while there's a protective order in place and criminal charges pending. And honestly, after what she did, no judge in their right mind would grant her unsupervised contact with a child. Ever. Mark called me every day to check in. He helped me move my stuff out of my old apartment into a new place across town somewhere Evelyn wouldn't know to look. He introduced me to his wife Jennifer, who was a therapist, and she recommended someone who specialised in childhood trauma for Chloe. He even helped me find a new teaching position at a school in a different district, somewhere with better security and a supportive administration who understood my situation. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something to go wrong, for Evelyn's lawyers to find some loophole. But slowly I realised that for once in my life the system was working for me instead of against me. 3 weeks after everything happened, I had all the documents ready. I'd spent the morning in Ms. Walsh's office going over everything one final time, making sure every detail was perfect. Then she helped me prepare 3 envelopes. Envelope 1 contained the official restraining order documents, now permanent, prohibiting Evelyn, Tiffany and James from coming within 500 feet of me or Chloe for the next 5 years, with provisions to extend it indefinitely. Any violation would result in immediate arrest. Envelope 2 contained copies of the police report, Detective Park's full investigation notes, Chloe's statement, witness testimonies from Mark and others, and the formal filing with Child Protective Services. It also included the DA's charging documents for child endangerment and attempted harm to a minor crimes that carried mandatory jail time if convicted. Envelope 3 contained the approved petition for Chloe's legal name change. She was no longer Chloe Martinez. She was now Chloe Sarah Chen Matthews, combining my maiden name with the name of my mother, who'd passed away when I was young. There was no trace of James's family in her identity anymore. That afternoon, with Mark waiting in his truck to make sure I'd be safe, I drove to Evelyn's house one last time. I rang the doorbell and waited. Tiffany answered her phone, conspicuously absent for once. When she saw me, she tried to slam the door, but I put my foot in the way. "I'm not here to fight," I said. "I'm here to deliver some documents. You can accept them voluntarily, or I can have an officer serve them. Your choice." She glared at me but stepped back. I walked into that pristine sitting room where this nightmare had started. Evelyn was in her usual chair, but she looked different. Smaller somehow. Older. The stress of the criminal charges and the social fallout had taken a toll. Her garden club had quietly asked her to step down. Her country club had launched an investigation. People who'd once kissed her ring were suddenly too busy to take her calls. I set the 3 envelopes on the coffee table in front of her. "What is this?" she demanded, but her voice lacked its usual steel. "Open them and find out." She grabbed the first envelope, tore it open and scanned the contents. Her face went white. She grabbed the second envelope, then the third. With each one, she seemed to shrink further into herself. "You can't do this," she finally said. "You can't just cut me out of my granddaughter's life." "I'm not cutting you out," I said, my voice cold and calm. "You cut yourself out when you told a 5-year-old to go stand by a highway, when you deliberately put her in danger to hurt me, when you showed me that you'd rather see my daughter dead than see me happy. That's not I never meant for her to actually. You never meant for her to what? Get hit by a car? Get kidnapped? What exactly did you think would happen when you sent a 5-year-old to an interstate on-ramp and told her to wait for strangers?" Evelyn's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. I picked up the third envelope and held it in front of her face. "This is a legal name change. Chloe no longer has any connection to your family. Not in her name, not in her records, not anywhere. As far as the law is concerned, you're not related to her." "You're destroying my family," Evelyn shrieked, lunging out of her chair. Tiffany grabbed her arm, holding her back. "Your family destroyed itself," I said. "You taught me what it felt like to be abandoned, to be told I was worthless, to be treated like I didn't matter. I survived that. I'm still here. But I'll be damned if I let you do the same thing to my daughter." I pointed at the second envelope. "In 2 weeks you have a preliminary hearing. The DA has recommended jail time. Your lawyers can argue all they want, but the evidence is overwhelming. You deliberately endangered a child. Your own granddaughter. That's not a family dispute. That's a crime. The judge will never..." "The judge has already seen the video of you destroying my phone. They've read the police reports. They've seen the medical records of Chloe's injuries. They've read the statements from multiple witnesses. You're not the powerful matriarch anymore, Evelyn. You're a defendant. And all those people you've looked down on for years, they're going to be reading about what you did in the court records. Everything is public. Your name, your crimes, your sentence. Everyone at your clubs, everyone in your social circle, everyone is going to know exactly what kind of person you really are." Evelyn collapsed back into her chair, her face in her hands. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. "Almost. I spent years trying to win your approval," I said quietly. "I changed myself, made myself smaller, accepted your abuse, all because I thought that's what family was supposed to do. Sacrifice. Endure. But you taught me something valuable, Evelyn. You taught me that some people don't deserve a place in your life, and you don't deserve a place in ours." I turned and walked toward the door. Mark was visible through the window, standing by his truck, ready to intervene if needed. "Wait," Evelyn called out. Her voice was broken, desperate. "Please." "She's my granddaughter. I made a mistake. I was angry. I wasn't thinking." I turned back. "A mistake is forgetting to send a birthday card. What you did was calculated cruelty. You had multiple chances to stop. When I was on the phone, you could have watched Chloe. When she walked out the door, you could have stopped her. When I came back in, you could have told me where she'd gone. Instead, you destroyed my phone. You blocked me from searching. You tried to make me look crazy in front of the police. Every single action you took was designed to maximize the danger to my child and the pain to me. That's not a mistake. That's who you are." I walked out of that house for the last time, leaving Evelyn's sobs echoing behind me. When I got to Mark's truck, I was shaking, but it wasn't from fear. It was relief. Release. The weight I'd been carrying for years, the need for her approval, the hope that somehow we could have a normal family relationship, it all fell away. "You okay?" Mark asked as I climbed into the passenger seat. "Yeah," I said, and I meant it. "I really am." The weeks that followed were a blur of therapy sessions for Chloe court dates and slowly building a new life. Evelyn's trial was scheduled for 2 months out. The DA was confident in a conviction, though he warned me that she might take a plea deal to avoid jail time. "Let her," I said. "As long as that protective order stays in place, I don't care what happens to her." Chloe was in therapy twice a week. At first she barely spoke in sessions, just drew pictures while the therapist, Dr. Emmeline, sat quietly nearby. Slowly, gradually, she started to open up. She talked about how Grandma made her feel scared, how she didn't understand why Grandma wanted her to go away, how she thought maybe she'd done something wrong to make Grandma not love her. "You didn't do anything wrong," I told her every single day. "Grandma was sick in her heart, but that's not your fault and it's not your job to fix her." "Are we safe now?" she asked me one night as I was tucking her in. "Yes, baby. We're safe. There are rules now that keep the bad people away from us. And we have friends like Mr. Mark who help protect us." and I will always, always keep you safe. Even from Grandma, especially from Grandma. She was quiet for a moment, then said, I like my new name, Chloe Chen Matthews. It sounds strong. You are strong. You're the strongest person I know. Mark became a constant presence in our lives. Not romantically, at least not at first, but as a friend, a protector, someone who'd stepped up when we needed help and never expected anything in return. Jennifer became a friend too, someone I could talk to about the complicated feelings of cutting off family, even family that hurt you. It's okay to grieve, she told me one afternoon over coffee while Chloe played with their daughter at a nearby park. Even when you make the right choice, even when someone is toxic and dangerous, you can still grieve the relationship you wished you had. I don't know if I'm grieving Evelyn, I said. I think I'm grieving the fantasy, the idea of a mother-in-law who loved me, a family that accepted me. I'm grieving something that never existed. That's still a loss. Don't minimize it. The trial date came. I sat in the courtroom with Mark on one side and Miss Walsh on the other watching, as Evelyn's expensive lawyers tried to paint her as a concerned grandmother who'd made an error in judgment. The DA, a fierce woman named Patricia Okonkwo, methodically destroyed their arguments. She played the audio of my 911 call where Evelyn's laughter could be heard in the background. She showed the police body cam footage of Evelyn blocking the door, showing no concern for a missing child. She presented Chloe's statement read aloud by Detective Park, detailing exactly what Evelyn had told her to do. This wasn't a mistake, Day Okonkwo said in her closing argument. This wasn't an error in judgment. This was a deliberate, calculated attempt to harm a child to punish her mother. The defendant told a 5-year-old girl to go stand by an interstate highway and wait for strangers to pick her up. She knew the danger. She intended the danger. This is child endangerment in its most clear and egregious form. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts, Evelyn was sentenced to 18 months in jail with the possibility of early release after 1 year if she completed a psychological evaluation and parenting classes. The judge also imposed a permanent no-contact order extending beyond the restraining order's 5 years. Mrs. Richardson, the judge said, what you did goes against every instinct a grandparent should have. You used your position of trust to endanger a child. You placed your need to hurt that child's mother above the child's safety and well-being. This court finds your actions reprehensible and deserving of serious consequences. I felt no joy watching Evelyn be led away in handcuffs, but I felt something close to peace. Justice had been served. The system that so often fails victims had worked this time. Outside the courthouse, reporters tried to swarm us, but Mark and Ms. Walsh formed a barrier while I got to my car. One reporter managed to shout a question. Do you have any comment on your mother-in-law's conviction? I stopped and turned back. I hope she gets the help she needs. But my focus is on my daughter now, on giving her a safe, loving childhood, on showing her that when someone hurts you, you don't have to accept it. You can protect yourself, you can build boundaries, you can create a better life. That night, I tucked Chloe into bed in our new apartment, in our new neighbourhood, where no one from my old life could find us. She looked up at me with those big blue eyes and said, Mama, are we happy now? I thought about it, really thought about it. We'd been through hell. We'd lost family even if that family was toxic. We'd had to rebuild our entire lives from scratch. But we were safe. We had real friends. We had each other. And most importantly, we had our freedom. Yes, baby, I said. We're happy now. 6 months later, Mark and I started dating. It happened gradually, naturally built on a foundation of friendship and trust instead of drama and passion. Chloe adored him. Jennifer became one of my closest friends. We built a chosen family, the kind I'd always wanted based on mutual respect and genuine care. Evelyn served her full 18 months. She violated the no-contact order twice, once trying to send Chloe a birthday card through a third party, and once showing up outside Chloe's new school. Both times resulted in additional charges and extended her sentence. James divorced her, finally seeing his mother for what she was. Tiffany moved to another state, her social media career never recovering. I never saw Evelyn again. And I was okay with that. This experience taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up for you, who protects you, who sees your worth. It taught me that setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's self-preservation. It taught me that some relationships can't be fixed, and trying to fix them only breaks you further. Most importantly, it taught me that I was strong enough to protect my daughter and myself, that I didn't need approval from people who would never give it, that I could build a better life, a safer life, a happier life without them. If you're in a toxic relationship with family, with a partner, with anyone who makes you feel small and worthless, please hear me. You deserve better. You don't owe anyone your pain. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to choose yourself. And if you have children, you're not just allowed to protect them, you're obligated to. It won't be easy. People will tell you that family is family, that you have to forgive, that you're being too harsh. Ignore them. They don't live your life. They don't carry your scars. Only you know what you've endured, and only you get to decide when enough is enough. For me, enough was enough the moment Evelyn endangered my daughter. But it could have been enough years earlier. It should have been enough the first time she told me I was worthless. You don't have to wait for a crisis. You're allowed to leave just because you're unhappy, just because you're tired, just because you deserve better. I'm telling you this story not for sympathy, but for solidarity. If you've been where I was feeling trapped and hopeless, know that there's a way out. It takes courage, it takes support, and it takes the willingness to face judgment from people who don't understand. But on the other side of that fear is freedom. And freedom, I've learnt, is worth everything. Have you ever had to cut someone toxic out of your life to protect yourself or someone you love? How did you find the strength to do it? Share your story in the comments, because someone out there needs to hear it. Someone is sitting where I sat wondering if they're strong enough to leave, and your story might be the thing that gives them courage. And if this story resonated with you, if it helped you feel less alone, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real stories about real people overcoming real struggles. Sometimes we all need to know we're not the only ones fighting these battles. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And remember, you're stronger than you think you are.